you don't get into farming because of the money involved by any means. You get into it because it's a love of working with the land, with equipment, setting your own schedule, those types of things, and being able to raise your kids in the country.
After 25 years planting corn, Drew Spolestra is concerned for the future of farmland in Ontario.
We're losing 175 acres a day of viable farming land, agriculture production land, and it's just not sustainable. We want to make sure, obviously, for the practice of farming, you need farmland to grow crops and grow food, produce food for the population, the population here in Ontario. So our concern is that we're losing too much land, and we want to have the government to initiate some policy that protects that land for the future, to ensure we can continue to grow food for the people here in Ontario. We can continue to have a local, sustainable food source, and we can protect the environment at the same time, because farming is one of the best practices for conserving or building soil carbon, building up and adapting to climate change, and it's a big factor in this discussion too. So when you take land like this and pave it over for housing, that's a pretty adverse effect on the climate, and as opposed to growing a crop, sequestering carbon, taking that natural carbon and putting it back into the plants. So.
While Ontario is large, only 5% of the land can support agriculture.
We're not anti-development by any means. We know that people need places to live and affordable housing and all these types of things. But we also know that they need food on their table, and we'd like to see it produced here in Ontario. If the pandemic's taught us anything, it's that we should be able to source what we need here locally in Ontario, or at least in Canada. And we have a huge opportunity here in Ontario. We grow over 200 different crops in this province, and we can continue to do that and continue to put food on people's table. So I think generally we're trying to raise awareness for folks in urban Ontario on where their food comes from and how they can help support Ontario agriculture when it comes to developing policy for the continuation of agriculture and slowing that loss of prime agricultural land. We'd like to see the government follow their own policies. We've got a provincial policy statement that says right in it that prime agricultural land shall be protected. And unfortunately, through some MZOs and other planning policies, municipalities and provincial authorities aren't really following that policy. So we'd like to see that statement followed. We'd also like to see an emphasis, as I've said, to put on preserving that prime agricultural land.
In the 50 years Peter Lambrick's farmed in Halton, he's watched as the urban landscape has swollen and the number of local dairy farmers has dwindled from 300 in the 70s